I am Colby. Nice to meet everybody. And yes, we are going to be talking about speech clarity today. And so I became in the Prader-Willi in October about 2015. And I met Jaden, and Jaden and I became friends pretty quickly. Like she said, they were looking for a prompt therapist, and that we're hoping that prompt could really help increase his clarity. So that's where I came. Jaden and I hit it off pretty quickly. Come in. Okay. Jaden and I hit it off pretty quickly. He likes sports. I love sports. I'm very silly, and he is very silly. So we had a really good time together. And our first meeting, I went to his public school, and his current SLP, his parents, and their principal all watched the first session. It was very scary, but it went really well, and we became friends. So it was a good thing. Jaden had errors in vowels and consonants, and his speech clarity was 10-20% when I met him. And so we kind of moved from there. Prompt was my main focus with him to start. And then after about a year, where we noticed that he wasn't carrying it over into other environments. And so I started to do a little bit of digging of what it was that Jaden was having difficulty doing. And that was keeping his tongue within the mouth and keeping his lips together. He was having difficulty with the production of most of his consonants. Differentiating the front of the tongue from the back of the tongue so he could move that quickly and get those sounds to come out quickly. And then we continued to work on grammar. So that's where I started looking into orofacial myology and trying to figure out how could I make Jaden his articulators stronger and have more mobility to move quicker within that mouth. So here we go. I was going to show you guys a video of Jaden when we first started, just so you guys can start. I'm into videos, and you'll kind of see that I like videos.
Helen.
Okay.
Wayne.
Okay. And are they good pets?
Small bad. Focus bad. Episode bad.
Okay. So I am going to grab one of my books, and I want you to tell me about some of the pictures that you see, and then we'll be done. Okay? Lips are not really rounding or tracking here. So okay, we don't have that O, so the lip rounding. So that's really what I'm talking about when I talk about lip movement and that differentiation of movement. These are the things that I'm going to be talking about, and those are the things that I'm looking for that speech clarity. We have to have differentiation of movement, and that's kind of where we are in our slideshow. Okay, so differentiation of movement is where the jaw, the lips, the tongue, they need to work differentially for mature speech to emerge. This means that they must work independently from one another and the rest of the body. The client who moves his head while trying to move his lips is demonstrating that poor differentiating of movement. And how we fix that is going to be stabilizing the jaw or stabilizing the extra movements that are going along with that. So on that, we're going to watch another video, and you're going to see how there's no differentiation of movement. So you're going to watch his jaw and his head. Okay, we're going to stick all the way around. Here we go. Let's start over here. Oh, my stick button. Okay, that's where I said this thing. Here we go. Stay on the lip, follow the stick button. Right here, stay on that lip. It'll come out here in a second. It comes down, and his head's also going to come with it. Nice. Now go all the way around. So close, good job. Great job. Okay, so you can see how the jaw and the head move with that tongue. So we need differentiation of head of the body. All right. So if we look at that developmentally, the head becomes different from the body, the jaw becomes different from the head, the lips from the jaw, the tongue from the jaw, the tongue tip from the tongue's body, the back from the tongue body, and then those lateral margins are going to come from the tongue body. So correcting positioning of movement of the tongue and lips are based upon stability of the jaw and the tongue's ability to remain neutral in a neutral position to that jaw movement. So if you're looking here and we say the word cat, so you got to remember that the tongue has to start in the back and then quickly come to the front to hit that T, cat. And so if you look at in the mouth, you're going from back to front without differentiation of the tongue. The back is going to work, the whole thing is going to work together. So you might get tat, you might get cack, you might get one of those things just because that's as fast as the tongue can move with no differentiation. Or if you say the word eat, you can feel how your tongue is pressed against the back of those molars. If you guys just kind of say it to yourselves or out loud, eat. And the tongue stays pushed against the back molars, and then eat. The lips have to work differently because the lips have to round while the back of the tongue is getting stable in the back of the mouth for that vowel sound. So you can see how we have to have differentiation of movement to get that clear speech. All right. So if you don't have that, that's where we get a speech sound disorder, and that's going to go to, so I kind of skipped over something. I'm going to back up a little bit. So when you guys are watching your kids eat, every once in a while we see those kids that overstuff the mouth, and what that is you're looking at the munching sound. So no matter if I put a lot of food in my mouth and I start to chew, I will hit something. So that's why we're putting so much food in the mouth, is because I will hit something. The tongue doesn't have to do anything. The cheeks are holding the food in because they're pretty strong muscles, and it's munch, 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 and you're swallowing huge pieces of food or big gulps of air. So your kid is bloated and burping, or we just have that really bad GERD in the stomach because we have so much ungrinded food within the stomach. So while even though speech and language is different than chewing, we're using a lot of those muscles. So you really want to make sure that the muscles are being used also during feeding. And an easy way to do this to start is, so you have your plate of food, take maybe 2 bites to start for the first week. You're going to eat your food, get full, however you need to do it. And then with these 2 bites, we're going to take very small bites. We're going to move it first on the left, switch it over to the right, then we get to swallow. So we're using all of those muscles, strengthening those muscles, and getting them to know what they need to do. Because again, we need the muscles to be strong and to have their own independent movements, even in swallowing. Okay? All right, thank you. All right, I'm somehow hitting buttons here. Okay. So if you don't have differentiation of movement, you get a speech sound disorder. So articulation disorder is the inability to say certain sounds correctly beyond the typical age. Sounds can be dropped, added, distorted, or substituted. Phonological processes. Those are where the child makes predictable patterns beyond, again, the typical age. So you have that final constant deletion. In the beginning, we saw Jaden, and it was bad, not bad. So he was dropping those sounds. Backing or fronting, so that was like a tat would be fronting, or cat would be backing. And then apraxia is a motor planning issue, and dysarthria is a motor speech issue. So we're going to keep going on that. So in terms of, we know that speech is, research has shown that speech is a motor planning, or is motor planning. So many things that we learn how to do is motor planning. Walking is a motor plan. Your brain has told your legs exactly how to walk, and that's how you've gotten your gait. So you as adults, if I asked all of you for the rest of the conference, we're going to walk with a new gait all the time. You're going to change your pattern. Think of how hard it would be and how much you would have to think about that to be able to walk like that the rest of the conference. You have to remember how hard your kids are working to have that clarity of speech. It's hard to change a pattern, especially if we're beyond the typical age of development. So you guys are all beyond the typical age of development to learn to walk. So learning a new limp would be very hard. And how often would you have to practice that new limp to make it your unconscious new walk? So again, you're going to practice probably a few times a day. Speech must be practiced a few times a day. You got to do your homework. I can't do it in once a week for an hour. I can make slow changes and we will get progress, but to see progress that you're going to be happy with, we must have that carryover. So I will work on refining and correcting the movements. You're going to work on patterning those movements that I've refined. Okay. If you guys have questions, please raise your hands. This is my first time I've ever done this, so you guys will be helping me doing all of this. Okay. Okay, here we go. Okay, apraxia of speech. Apraxia of speech is an acquired oral motor disorder affecting an individual's ability to translate conscious speech plans into motor plans, which results in limited and difficult speech ability. By definition, apraxia of speech affects volitional speech, but motor movements volitional motor movements. However, automatic speech almost always is affected as well. Okay, so it's an uncommon speech disorder. Due to the fact that there's comorbidity of all of the other things that go along with disorders, it's very hard to just say it's apraxia. But usually we do have apraxia with other syndromes or disorders. The brain struggles to develop plans for speech movements. Speech muscles are not weak, but again, usually we do have weakness, so we need to strengthen the muscles and be able to get them working independent. Okay? All right, here we go. So here are some of the symptoms that go along with apraxia. So there's going to be the difficulty moving smoothly from one sound to another. You're going to have those groping movements of the jaw, the lips, the tongue to make those correct sounds. Vowel distortions, wrong stress. So you might say banana or banana or banana. So we're looking for, again, where is the breakdown? Inconsistency of word production, difficulty imitating words, and inconsistent vowel voicing errors. So they do, other symptoms that go along with that is going to be delayed language, reduced vocabulary, delayed grammatical skills, delayed in intellect and motor development, spelling and reading, difficulty with gross and fine motor, and then we do have with oral manipulation, so sometimes it's that toothbrushing, so it's just that sensory piece that goes along with it. All right, so dysarthria. Dysarthria is a motor speech disorder resulting from neurological injury to the motor component of the motor speech system. So you have a motor homunculus, which is where, and it's on this side of the brain, and that's where motor speech or motors are learned, and it starts with the trunk of the body. As you grow, you can sit up, and then it moves from there, and it comes down. And the last to develop is that the tongue and the lips and the tips of the fingers. So this is where where dysarthria has the breakdown, is on that motor homunculus. It is a condition where the muscles are weak and you have difficulty controlling them, and it's characterized by slow or slurred speech. However, that it could be, as you're going to see here, that the sometimes you just have that very rapid speech that's difficult to understand. But there's slurred speech, slowed speech, inability to talk louder than a whisper. Sometimes it's raspy and strained. There's uneven or abnormal rhythm. Uneven speech volume. Sometimes it's monotone, or we have difficulty moving the tongue or the facial muscles. All right, so we're going to look at articulation here. So here's articulation development. So when you go to the school districts, the school district lets you get through all the way until the developmental sound is over. And that's why sometimes the patterning is, you're in speech for so long in school districts, just because they wait until the actual development is over. So if we just look here at the P, the B, the M, the H, the first developing sounds, at 1 year old, 50% of all children are able to say those sounds. And then by 3 years, 90% of children are able to say them with 90% accuracy. So let's just take the P because it's there at the top. You don't want to wait until the child is 3 before we start working on that P sound, because the development and the patterning is over. Like we talked about, if I gave you guys to walk with a limp the rest of the day, you don't want to wait. It's harder to change it once it's done. You want to start earlier. Once, I would say somewhere around like 2.5, you're noticing that the P, the B, the M, which we're going to watch a little video of a boy, you want to wait until, you want to start then. Don't wait until it's already the developmental time is over. So let's look at that. Is everyone, I see people taking pictures. I'll wait, I don't mind. All right, so here you're looking for the P, the B, and that M.
What does this one say?
Because I guess, because I'm a cat.
Such a sweet little man right there. Okay, but you can see that he's making the P's, the B's, and the M with the teeth instead of the lips. So he's bringing it in, even the moo, instead of having that ooh, it was moo, and he brought him in. So again, we're looking for independent movements, and we got to get that lip rounding and retracting so you can get the sounds that we're looking for. Alrighty. Okay, so intelligibility. We are, by 4 years old, it should be 100% intelligible. That does not mean that they're making every sound correctly, as we saw on the articulation. So if I had a lisp and an R sound, and I said, my sister wants some water, pretty much everyone probably knows what the message I was trying to convey, but I did have an articulation disorder, but it didn't change the message. So I would still be 100% intelligible due to the fact that you could hear my message. All right? Okay, orofacial myology. Oh, you know what? I'm supposed to stop here and watch some videos. Let's stop. Alrighty, so let's look at some videos. All right. Whew. Here we go. No, that's not where we watch videos. I lied. Let's go back to what we were doing. All right. So, orofacial myology. This is the definition from Sandra Holtzman. Sandra Holtzman was my mentor and who I learned things from. She's one of the leaders. This is her book here. Please feel free to come check it out whenever you would like to. The orofacial myology is the study and treatment of oral and facial muscles as they relate to speech, dentition, chewing and bolus collection, swallowing, and overall mental and physical health. All right. So here are just some fun videos of a fun picture. So the first one is just going to be what happens before, after this one, and then untreated, and then before, after, untreated. All right? So, we are looking, what is an orofacial myofunctional disorder? It's a lack of a lip seal, possibly mouth breathing, and leading to occlusal dysfunction, which just means the teeth are not lined up correctly. Low forward rest tongue position leads to orthodontic relapse, psychological, cosmetic, and structural issues. Failure to chew properly, incorrect swallowing, again leading to GERD and that bloating, obstructive sleep apnea. So again, we're not just looking at children. This is adults as well have myofunctional disorders. And then speech problems. So when you do have a speech problem, it's usually going to affect that tongue tip and how the tongue sits in the front of the mouth. So the T, the D, the N, and the L, and then the S, the Z, the SH, the CH, and the J sound. So let's look at a little man. And again, we're going to be focusing on those front sounds here. All right. You can already see the lower jaw kind of comes out down here.
And,
we have been working on this. So when he says the word not, he's going to start the teeth together because he knows he has to get the tongue behind the teeth. But then once he starts the connected speech, you're going to see that whole jaw come forward and the T and the D up there in the front. All right, here we go. Let me back it up a little bit because I'm giving you a sentence to say.
and I'm not eating that.
I'm not eating that.
All right. So if you watch on that, the T sounds are
I'm going to send videos to parents. So these are usually to the parents. I help them guide them
with their blade at the tongue, and we need for that crisp sounds that we want to hear. Okay, so on that we are working the T sound. So you were going to take your mouth prep.
Why are you eating that?
Before we're making this. So instead of turning it this way in his mouth, turn it sideways so it's not as large, and we're going to keep it small. You ready, Beth? We're going to show them how to get that tongue right on spot. Good. Wait, hold on. You got a lot in there. All right, right on. It's just a little corner. Right on spot. Here we go, buddy.
his tongue.
Oh, that was all
Falling down and
the
he's making it blade.
here. Can you see yourself? There you go, bud. Oh, that way too much. Again. We're gonna try it a little bit smaller.
So the jaw is so involved, I need a smaller mouth prop so the jaw can be closer together. Remember
I
you
can
do
see
with
it.
the teeth
Look at your tongue
there?
right now. Where's my spot? Pull that tongue up. Here you go. Tongue up. Oh. There it was.
So that was homework. He had to say his T with the mouth prop, and he had to say it consistently at spot. Hard to do, as you can see. So that was the only homework assignment he had for then. But you'll later see all my parents do homework 3 times a day. Okay. Alrighty. So here's the tongue tie, the tongue tie is going to restrict mobility and function. And so you can see how here we have. Oh, I forgot to press this. Here he has that piece of tethered tissue holding his tongue to the ground, and here now it's been fixed, and now he has that stretching mobility. Earlier when we were talking about just the facial summary, mental and physical health, just look at the face structure. Don't even really look at her teeth. Just look at how much more, and for lack of a better word, beautiful. It really, the way your tongue sits within the mouth changes how your face is structured and how it grows. And then there's a lip tie. And then this little man sits here with his tongue in the front, and you can see how it's pushing these teeth up, and these teeth are going to come in and out. This one's already kind of coming out in front, and so he's getting an open bite due to the fact that he's resting his tongue between there. And also, you're going to see these teeth are starting to tip in lingually because his mouth is open most of the time. The cheek muscles push the teeth in and make the instead of having a round U-shaped palate, it becomes a V. Okay, so what is myofunctional therapy? It's a series of exercises to repattern and optimize that orofacial functions to habituate static and dynamic and coordinate patterns that promote stable and correct oral postures. It may include programs that eliminate oral habits such as tongue thrust or thumb sucking, even clothes. Some of the kids you're going to see, they keep their clothes in their mouth all the time. So, or correcting one of those restricted frenulums, lip or tongue. Okay. So my mouth props. So in orofacial myology, we use some props. So to stabilize that jaw, we use mouth props. And I have some here if you guys want to look at them. This button is to strengthen the oral, the lips, and it's just for tongue strength. So I have a lip meter here, and we test the lips prior to have average lip strength is between 3 and 6 pounds. Most of the kids that I start with are by far usually around maybe 1. And so what we do is you put the teeth together, this in front, and you strength, and they just hold and pull. So usually we do about 5. So you put it in front of the teeth, wrap it around, and then you hold it for 5 seconds, just where the button doesn't come out. So you're working on that strength there. And then you pull it out. So again, you're doing this 3 times a day to strengthen those lips. So there's the battle buttons. I use a stick, and this stick, you saw it with Jaden. I use the stick to help guide. Sometimes we have to do that tongue out and in, and so when I want a tongue out and in, I want it straight. I don't want it to curl, so it's a straight out and in, and you'll notice that my jaw does not move. Same with back and forth, so we're going to be looking at the lateral movements. Can the jaw stay out of the movement? We need the tongue to work independent. Okay, here we go. All right, so here is that U-shaped palate, and then one that has the tongue with a forward rest position. And you can see that because the tongue, a normal tongue posture or resting posture, the tongue is slightly suctioned to the roof of the mouth, pushing on all insides, lingual sides of the teeth. And then here on the other side, we have a V-shaped palate. And that's because the tongue is low and forward within the mouth, and the cheeks, again, have pushed all of this in. So you're sitting like this and breathing through the mouth. All right, so our goals of orofacial myofunctional therapy, we want the tongue up in the palate-tongue rest position, a lip seal at rest, correcting excessive habits, that's that thumb sucking or chewing on clothes, a posterior closed teeth swallow, and chewing properly and drinking, and then nasal breathing. Nasal breathing is quite huge. I don't know if anyone knows about this, and I didn't know about it as much until I got into orofacial myology, but if you are not nose breathing, you are losing so much function within the body. It helps keep the passages open because they will atrophy. If you don't use your nasal passages, they'll get smaller. It warms the air, it cleans the air, and usually when you're mouth breathing, you're only using this upper part of the lungs, so that increases the fight or flight. So if you breathe through your nose, it goes down deeper into the lungs, and you get the calming effect because it just stimulates that kind of, I can't think of the word, but it stimulates I could probably read it and find it. It makes you calmer when you breathe properly. So if your child is mouth breathing at night, I'm going to recommend that you tape their lips together. And 80% of all of your hormones, your growth hormones, do come at night. And so what you do is you take a very soft tape that you use during like first aid, and you want to cross the lips here. And so the lips stay together, and they nose breathe at night because the lips are going to grow, and again, the hormones are going to be coming, and it's going to grow properly and keep those lips and the nasal passages better. So you have any, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, at what age do you recommend that? Because babies mouth breathe, right?
No.
You're not supposed to?
No, we don't want a baby mouth breathing. So again, when your child is mouth breathing, it's a cross. I've tried some people you can use it just up here, but usually my older clients, the one that we saw where his teeth were coming up and this tooth was kind of high, he mouth breathes so much that his mom and dad think it's somewhere around like 3 o'clock that his mouth just pops open, and then we find the tape somewhere else. But as soon as they started crossing it, he could keep the lips together all night long. And so he's doing much better during the day due to the fact that he can do it all night. Okay? Okay. All right. Now we watch videos. Let's do this. All right. So some fun stuff.
Can I ask about the mouth breathing?
Mm-hmm.
Is that something you want to see just when they're sleeping or
All the time. So if we went back here, hold on. If we look back at this little one, and to me it's just a beautiful, I went way too far. This little girl here, just look at the difference of the mouth breather, her eyes, and how far back and how dark circles she has, and how much the mouth breathing is really, again, she just looks brighter, happier, she looks more crisp. Same with this little girl here. So that is a mouth breather. She just looks, just the mouth breathing, you can see how much it changes the way the face looks and the way the face grows. Yeah, you want it all the time.
so during the day if they're breathing through their mouth, what do you just tell them?
We take our little stick and we start with a small amount of time. Sometimes I use, the little bread ties that become their plastic little bread ties. Sometimes they're better than this because they won't, if there is some type of splinter, it won't happen. And teeth together, and they get to watch TV. So you would, when the mouth comes open, you would remind them to put this in. But again, they're pushing on this. So the reason I don't do the tape, you can do the tape during the day. However, it's not doing anything for the muscle. So even if you use the button, which I don't know where it went, I don't love the button because it's round during this type of posture, but you could just sit with it in and get that lip closure. So yes, you want nose breathing all the time. Again, it'll change the way the teeth grow, and it'll push them in, and you'll get that narrow palate. If you have a narrow palate, it's much harder to articulate because again, when we did that E, those teeth are pushing on the back. The tongue is pushing on those back teeth, and if you don't have very much space in there, it's very hard to get that quick, accurate movement. That's why if you see now, we have a lot of expanders in kids, you can see the orthodontists are starting much earlier to expand the palate because of the growth and the way that the tongue sits. And then we can take the braces off earlier and see if what they did worked. So can we get that tongue? So if you have an orthodontist, and the orthodontic association recommends that you get your first orthodontic visit prior to age 7. My daughter is 6 years old. Oh, well, she just turned 7 and is in braces. My daughter's a mouth breather, and so her teeth were falling in. She lost a lot of teeth due to the mouth breathing because the pressure is what keeps your teeth up and in, and when you have them open, they want to keep growing and coming down. So she's 7, and I think she's lost 10 teeth, and so very early. So again, you want to make sure that if you do see orthodontic problems, get in there and just, if you don't believe them, go to a second one. Just get in there and start to get some knowledge about how your child's mouth should grow, because it's really going to affect the clarity of speech. Okay? All right, let's see where we were. Oh, and you can see here the way the face grows and how it gets long and skinny. And here it's kind of round and plump and fat. All right, we're gonna watch some videos, I think is what we were doing. Okay, I gotta find out where I am. All right, sounds good. That's fine.
Okay, so this one is for lip rounding and retracting and getting the jaw to differentiate from the lips. So he's actually pretty good with most of it. So what I want to see him doing is to open him out a little bit more, because what I'd like to do at some point is this. E, ooh, and you can see that my teeth aren't touching it. So we're gonna get him there. All right, you ready? It's your turn. So I'm gonna put this just in the front so his lips can still move. Ready? E, ooh, e, ooh, e, ooh, e, ooh, e, ooh. Okay, stop. Let's do ew. Good. One more time. Ew. Good. I love it. Nice job. So you're gonna do that 5 times. E, ooh, e, ooh, e, ooh. Your turn. Try to open it up. Just flip it for me. E, ooh. Oh wait, I'm gonna do it open. E, ooh. Nice try. Again.
So he needs the he needs the stability of the jaw, is what I should say.
All right, great job. Thank you.
Okay, so Jaden has had his tongue clipped since we started. I got into orofacial myology. We figured out he needed his tongue clipped, so spot has become much easier for him. Count.
Great job. Just take out my fingers, buddy.
Okay, here's another lip exercise. So when you have an open bite, so where the teeth are coming out, it's very hard to stick the button in to hold due to the teeth are pushing on it. So sometimes we have to do different exercises because the teeth are making it so you can't get this flat against them because the teeth are sticking more out like this from the tongue pushing on them. So here's another lip exercise. You have to hold the air as long as you can, and then we move it to and pushing the air out and just letting the air squish out. So here he's just holding the air in.
Here we go. I'll start again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10. All right, here. Lip gloves. Tongue to spot again. Now, you practice today.
All right. And okay. Okay, so here we are starting to see a little more of the differentiation of the tongue to make different sounds at the same spot. So here we're going to be talking about that proprioceptive How hard do you have to push to make a T? How hard do you have to push to make a D? To L to an N, all made in the exact same spot in the mouth. So your body has to know, that sensory feedback has to know which sound am I making and how much pressure do I put there to make that sound. All right, here we go, and we're going to use the small one. Open, tight. There. 2. Beautiful. Now we're going to do la. All by yourself. You don't need that big mouth.
Jaden, show me how you're doing not again.
Notice the jaw without the problem. Now again. Find that, where's that bump? Look at it. Nah. Oh, move it forward there. Still the sound. So, all right. So let's look at, after a few trials here. This is here we go. First we're going to do 3. La. Ready?
La.
Now let's do Good, well done. Now let's do na, la. Much better. Much crisper, much different sounds. All right. Oh. All right. So the lateral margins is kind of a taco tongue. How can you get that just the lateral margins to work independent of themselves? Most of my kids cannot make a taco tongue. So Jaden had worked on taco tongue for quite some time, and now it's called hot dog tongue. So this was the one time I got to use food with him, and he's gonna hold something in the middle and hold it where the bolus would be for swallowing. So back in the back of the tongue. Then what do we wrap it? So first open the mouth and wrap it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Buddy. What do you think? Good man, huh? All right. So good. All right. Okay. So we're going to move into prompt. All right, here I am doing prompt. Good times, guys, good times. Okay, so I began prompt in 2011, and it changed the way I started doing therapy. Not only did the kids increase in their productions, but it was more fun. It was much more fun because you're using speech during functional communication, meaning we put words to games. Instead of saying we look at a piece of paper, say some words, and then get 2 turns, and then we go back to a sheet of paper. We are gonna structure the therapy with the sounds, words, whatever it is that they need within the session. Alrighty. So, prompt stands for Prompts for Restructuring Oral Musculature Phonetic Targets. It is a tactile kinesthetic approach that involves touch cues to the individual articulators of the jaw, tongue, and lips to manually guide them through the target word, phrase, or sentence. It stresses motor control and precision of the motor muscle movements. It eliminates unnecessary muscle or jaw movements, such as jaw sliding or inadequate lip retracting or rounding. Okay? So much of the prompt method is based on the motor learning theory. I don't know if she's waiting for me. Okay. Of the motor learning theory, which the motor learning theory refers to a set of processes associated with practice or experiences leading to a relatively permanent change in the capacity for movement. Motor learning is facilitated by a number of factors pertaining to the structure of practice, stimulus selection, and nature of reinforcement. Behavioral treatments are known to promote brain reorganization and plasticity. It can be best achieved through a systematic application of principles of motor learning during the rehabilitation regime. So just as we talked earlier,
Motor learning pertains to many things, not only speaking, walking, learning to be ballet, playing the piano. Those all motor learning skills. So, what are the main points of learning the motor learning theory? All right, so the precursors, we really want that great relationship with the therapist. Again, this is a trust thing. I am going to push them. I see them once a week for an hour. I'm going to push them pretty hard. So they have to know that I love them, that I'm there for them. I will guide them through, and I will make sure that they are going to make it. And if not, I'm not going to make it so they cry. I'm going to be there to help them and get them through. We want to keep the child's attention and motivate them, and we pre-practice words. So during the activity, they have already practiced the word a few times. It's not like we just jump in. You usually practice the words a few times. We really want to increase the amount of speech trials or amount of motor movement practice. So we use activities, again, in functional speech that decrease the break time and the praise time. It is more meaningful to use those speech words in context than looking at a picture. It helps them understand where you use the language, how you use the language. Distributed practice is much more beneficial than mass practice, so we want shorter bursts of therapy. So rather than I have my parents just do homework once a day, I need you to work on it in the morning, after school, and at night. So it's only 5 minutes, so it's still 15 minutes, but you're distributing it throughout the day, just as if you were learning to walk again. It would be better if you practiced that many times. Random practice is better than block practice. So I don't know if you guys have experienced this, but if you so let's say we're just working on the F sound, all of a sudden everything has an F in it, even words that don't have any Fs. They generalize that sound. So this takes it away by giving them more sounds to work on, but they have to use it in functional speech so they know that every word doesn't start with the F. We're going to start with lots of words and we're going to articulate all of them. Okay. And then that essential feedback. So not only do we cue while we're there, I talk about, oh, way to get those lips rounded. I like the way you put the air over the lip. So there's lots of talking so they can hear what they're doing right. So when they're by themselves, they know what they're doing. All right. So we start with the evaluation. You can get the evaluation by a private SLP or your school district. School district obviously is going to be cheaper, and I will take their information because you're going to get a full eval. I will take all of that information and put it into the conceptual framework, which we're going to go over. And so I will take, where is the tone? How are they psychologically? Where is it, the cognitive levels? So we want to, I don't need to do everything. Again, I don't even have a psychologist in my office. So again, getting that information from the school district, you can absolutely do that. And then the speech eval, we don't just want words in single word utterances in the Goldman-Fristow. Yes, the Goldman-Fristow is fine, I don't mind it, but again, functional speech to say ball, wall, door, it just changes. The door is open. The sound before the D and the sound after the R affect the way that the speech comes out. It affects the clarity of speech. So we want them to take a speech sample. I talked to some of the people at lunch. In my opinion, this should be videotaped because, again, us as parents, we see the kids so often that we don't notice the small little changes. If you have that video to go back to every once in a while, you're going to be like, yes, this is working. Because sometimes you forget that, this has been a long road. Where am I? Why am I still here? And if you have the video, you can see, oh, yes, they are making changes. Okay? All right. So let's check out that conceptual framework of prompt. So prompt is not only just a hands-on method of speech correction, it's the conceptual framework of prompt addresses the entire act of communication. So that includes the physical sensory, the cognitive linguistic, and the social domains that interact together. It is based on the dynamic systems theory, which states that motor speech production is the result of coordinated actions between and amongst all parts. If any of these global domains, which the global domains are here, so we have a little circle here, and then communication happens within those parts. If any of these global domains is disordered, delayed, or damaged, then speech production may not happen typically. So the tactile kinesthetic approach of prompt is how we address these and how it is affected by those. So looking at the physical sensory, the physical touch changes the physiological states of that fight or flight alerting. It settles the body, and it allows them the ability to discriminate and focus. I'm sorry, I need some water. If we move over to the social emotional, the tactile kinesthetic approach helps the social emotional stage, such as nurturing, developing the self, differentiating themselves from others, and the ability to develop trust. And last, touch helps the cognitive linguistic states, such as association of information and the various levels of perception and concept formation. So I get your evaluation from whoever you got your evaluation by, even if it's me, and I start answering questions. And you can see that I have put the theorist at the end of where these questions come from, because it's all evidence-based. And so it does come from theories that we learn in college. All right, so in terms of the physical sensory domain, are the child's skeletal, facial structures, and muscular development normal for the child's chronological age, and symmetry aligned with both the vertical and horizontal planes? So again, are they opening the jaw too much? Are they rounding and retracting a little, enough? How is that looking? Is the child's tone normal? If not, is it either hyper or hypotonous, showing in the whole body, the trunk, or the face? Is there neurological damage? And if so, is it that the higher cortical centers are unable to inhibit lower level behavior or early motor reflexes? So if you have a strong gag reflex, we've got to get rid of that gag reflex. It's hard to make a K sound when you gag every time you make it. So sometimes we have to inhibit some reflexes that come just in development. We're trying to kind of eliminate them. And does the child exhibit differences or difficulties in processing tactile, kinesthetic, proprioceptive, auditory, or visual input? All right. So the cognitive linguistic domain, how easy is it for the child to perceive, discriminate, retrieve, and coordinate different types of levels of sensory and perceptual inputs for developing concepts and speech and production of speech? How does the child use early sensory perception information to develop action schemas to interact with their environment? How tightly structured does the event or the context need to be, from highly structured to unstructured, in order for the child to maintain that successful integration and the ability to learn? All right, and then the social emotional domain. How and why does the child express her wants and his or her wants and needs? And how does the child use the significant others in the environment to gain the acquisition of knowledge? So how do they communicate in their environment? So in prompt, we see behavior is viewed as a byproduct of a disturbance of one of these. It's not always because they're trying to get out of something. Somewhere there's a breakdown, and I need to figure out what happened in that breakdown so I can bring them back and get the speech corrected. All right, so here's some terms of reference. These are just kind of definitions that you're going to hear a lot when we talk about speech. Does anyone want me to go over these? Yes, probably. So at rest, how does the tongue look at rest? Again, it's supposed to be at the top of the mouth, pushing against all those teeth. Your teeth really shouldn't be together. Probably everyone here, their teeth aren't touching. They're about 2 to 3 millimeters apart. Co-articulation, again, the sound before a word and after a word affect the word. Degrees of freedom. So with Jaden, he had not enough degrees of freedom. His lips did not round, and he twisted his teeth together for the E and the oo. And so we didn't have any degrees of freedom where we want the mouth to open up a little bit. So we have E, oo, but not oh, because that would be too many degrees of freedom because the jaw has dropped. Kinesthesia, so how does it feel, and can you feel what the mouth is supposed to be doing within the mouth? How hard do you push? How not hard do you push? A phoneme, smallest sound. Place of contact, we want to know where the articulators are going, and the planes of movement, so that interoral space and the articulators move in several different directions. So your tongue moves a lot of different ways. It moves more than any other muscle within the body. You can curl it, you can make the back move differently than the front. It's just it moves a lot. Okay, so those questions that we just asked go into the system analysis observation. And then if you look on the system analysis here, there are some stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4 stage 5, and stage 6. Stage 7 is prosody, so that's going to be the timing. And we go through and answer these, and then we fill out this motor speech hierarchy. So if you don't have the tone for speech, it's going to be hard. If you are slouched over and you can't inhale the air to get enough speech out, then we have to say that we got to work on tone. And so we're going to refer you to occupational therapists to try to get you up so that the lungs can get enough air in to where you can hold a sentence. And then the phonatory control. Can you turn your voice on and off on command? So when we watch some of these videos, some of my kids were not really turning their voice on and off on command. You kind of see what I'm talking about. Okay, so the mandibular control, this is going to be the jaw. We're going to start with the jaw because remember, we're looking for stability, and that is proximal. So the closest to the center is where we want stability to start. Remember, you sit up and you hold your body up first, so that's where we want it to stay. The jaw is what we want to stay. So if we think about a child's arm if we take it away, when a child is little and they want to grab a Cheerio, the whole arm comes up and over, grabs the Cheerio and stuffs it in. And as we grow, the arm kind of stays close here to the body. It rarely, really, unless we're putting our shirt on, your arm really doesn't leave the side of your body. And you just go and grab whatever. And the arm disassociates from the wrist, which disassociates from the fingers. So it happens all over the body. It's not just the jaw disassociating from the tongue, disassociating from the lips. It happens all over the body, disassociation. So here we're looking for that mandibular. We want the jaw. If I'm saying mama, I don't want mama. I'm going to have to hold the jaw up for the child and get mama. So that's what we're doing in prompt is I hold stability of the jaw so only the lips will work. So they don't get too many degrees of freedom and it changes the sound or the production of the speech. And the labiofacial control, one up there, now we're looking at the rounding and retracting. And then we have the lingual control, which is the tongue. And then a little bit higher, we're going to sequencing of movement. So we're looking at multiple planes of movement. And then prosody is just going to be that kind of the up and down sing-song of speech. All right, so here's some words that go with all those stages. So again, in stage 1 and 2, when you're doing hat, hot, and man, the mouth, here we have the jaw is up, and then hot, the jaw drops and comes back. And then same with the hat, the big jaw sounds there. And then stage 2, stage 3, 4, and 5, are you're going to get more of the E, ooh, the ah. You're going to do more. You have some diphthongs in there. And then even higher, you can see how the sounds get harder, just as they did on the articulation development. It gets harder and harder as we go. All right, and then we have the 4 levels of prompt. So you have parameter prompt. This is going to be more of the base control where I'm going to hold the jaw and keep the jaw in control. The syllable prompt, this is going to be like do, 1 syllable, and I will hold the whole face and not let anything move, and it's just do, and I can hold the whole face for that. Complex prompt, this one is not used all that often. It's usually more in the beginning, but a complex prompt is used. And then the surface prompts are what you're going to see me doing most of. It's more of where I'm putting my hands all over their face. All right, here we go. All right, so here's some complex and some surface prompts. This sweet little one. I'm just gonna be showing different videos about different kids because I'll give you guys kind of a bigger range. All right, here we go. She's having that tongue. We'll use this. There we go. Trying to make it somewhat normal for Mama. All right, ready? What are you gonna? Can I put some cleaning? Are you gonna do it? What are you gonna do?
I'm going to put in bowl.
Nice job. Here goes. Right where you need to be. We're gonna do just a small mouth bang off.
No.
Don't make it drop the tongue. So tell her we're gonna do small mouth. Let's do that one more time. Can I see the mouth? So it's gonna be put in dog. One more time. Eyes on me. Let's do it. You're doing such a good job. All right, are you ready? All right, let's do it. What are you gonna do?
Put in dog.
Yes, and I'm hearing put in, and I want put
In dog.
nice. I'm gonna keep that from that small mouth. Here we go. Put in body. I take my turn so I give a good model.
In snapper.
Nice. Let me see. Ready? Uh-oh, that's funny. Ready? Nice, honey. Man, you're doing great. Here we go. Let's in. Your turn. My turn. Nice. Oh, man, you're getting that girl. Nice. In there, baby girl. One more time. What was that? Let's in. Oh, bench. I thought you said something. One more time. Let's go catch it. Where's your wish? Oh my goodness, these lips are amazing. Yes, let's do that one together. In sun. Nice job, sweetheart. Done. So good. All right. Where are you? So for Jaden, we're going to add some movement because if you are moving, you're allocating resources. Again, walking and speaking is harder than just sitting in a chair, holding everything still and just talking. So we add some movement. You look and see your mouth's ready to go.
Oh yeah, here's getting some pictures all clear.
Nice. All right, if you're ready, I'm going to have to help you with the sentences just in the beginning, just in case you need some help. Are you ready? Here we go.
Turn on the picture. One.
Yes.
Word. What?
And the word is what? Hold on, let me give you the whole sentence. What should I pick? Your turn.
What should I pick?
And I'm going to say pick a pet.
So I have pieces of puzzles scattered around. On the other thing, he's going to go pick a pet. I have two different kinds.
Come on, let's pick a pet. Go fast. And bring it back. Nice. Hide it in your hand so I can't see it. One. Hide it. Good.
Why?
Because then I'm going to ask you, what did you pick? And your words.
I picked a cat. Oh.
Oh, horse. Nice. Can I have a turn?
Yes, you may.
What should I pick? Ready?
New animal.
You pick a zoo. We're gonna zoo. And one more time. And it okay. Have you said zoo animal? So we both take turns, so we have to both wait your turn to get a communication act. You talk, I wait. Now I wait, you talk, so we're working on pragmatics as well. The syntax of the answer. Interruptions, we have to put the syntax around.
Yeah.
So you tell me, try again.
Try again.
Okay.
What did you pick?
You hear what?
What did you pick?
I picked a tiger.
I know it.
All right.
All right. But that no sour.
That one doesn't have sound because that's just not one that makes sense. All right.
Can I have a turn?
One more second.
Can I have a turn?
Of course.
What should I get?
Okay.
Get.
So with prompt, I try not to always make it my words. If he wants to say, what do I get? We change the sentence. We work in the moment if that's what he wants to get. However, he has to get it right. So sometimes I have to go in and help, but you'll notice it, whatever the communication function or the communication intent, I want to clear that one, not make it mine.
I think you should get a zoo animal. I'm gonna stop there so you have to see what that is. All right.
All right, so I'm going to kind of show you some kids before where we started and where we are now. All right, so we can start with Sunny. Now, here he is with his ILS, and if you look over in the corner over here, you can see at this point he was using an AAC device because his speech was so unclear.
All right, Sunny. Eyes on me. Sunny.
Eye contact was difficult, and it was more for the corporal eye contact. It's not on the side.
Okay, no touch.
Gaze, just difficult. So again, you need to
No touch. Now,
communication with friends.
Big. Good, go ahead. Yeah, oh, big one right there. Yeah, you go. Thick, like this. What color? Show me. Sunny. Show me. What color did you land on? Hey, I heard blue. Blue. Fine blue? Oh, blue. Stop. Ready? You go. Cycle goes on. Who gets to go? You go. No.
I think it's too hard.
Go. Okay, again. Tell me, who gets to go? Coco, go.
I think it's too hard.
Coco, go. You say. Go. Okay. Flick. 1, 2. Purple. 1, 2. You go. Go, Sunny. What are you gonna do?
We're almost time's up. I'm sorry. I don't mean to kind of, if anyone wants to see these, I'm going to have. Okay, so here's Sunny.
What's the amount of time age difference?
This is about, I think, 1.5 years later. She's telling me how to make slime.
Okay. Okay. 2 drops of water. Nice.
I think the words. I couldn't think of the word while we were sitting.
Yeah, I can't think of the word right now. Yeah, just stuff. And then do you mix it with your fingers? You use a spoon. Nice. And what color is it? Did you put food coloring? Blue. And you new color and you made it white and blue. So it's kind of light blue. Nice, buddy. More blue? Nice. And is it sparkle or no sparkle? That's right. Oh, glows. Does it glow? Nice, bud. That was so good. You were sleeping and slide up good? Nice. Did you play with it today? It's in your backpack. Did you take it to school? Nice. Was it fun? Nice, buddy. Hey, you are on it, bud. Okay, let's practice our words. So we're ready for stuff.
Okay, do our work. I have one more kid to show you. We're almost
Okay,
out of
ready?
time.
We're going to say pop.
So this is Walter, and I'm sorry, the video this was not all that good, but I'm a one-man show sometimes, so. Walter, and Walter is he's maybe just about 2 to really start. And you're gonna notice he doesn't make very many sounds, and I taught him, yeah. Sometimes he says, and he kind of makes little noises, but he doesn't really have words. He had no words, and then yeah was the first thing I told him to taught him.
I see a lot in your head. Can you tell me, yeah? Do you want to fish?
Yeah.
Okay, let's get it. I heard yeah. Okay. Can you hold the fishing pole? Okay.
So did you hear?
Do you want to pull it?
No, he doesn't.
Yeah.
And now I was talking.
Yeah.
So here's the planes of movement. He doesn't say yeah on this one. It's e, ah. So right now we still have to kind of work on those sounds and get it to more of a yeah. He did it a few times.
You hold the fishing pole? Okay. Did you want to pull it? Yeah. Okay, I heard yeah. All right.
So that's pretty much where we are. He's gonna be kind of, and he,
Do you want to go to the grocery store? I don't know if that's a no or a yeah. Do you want to go to the store? Nah. Do you want to go to the park? Do you want to go to the park? Oh, is that a yeah? Do you want to go to the park? Yeah. Do it with me, buddy. Do you want to go to the park? Yeah. Good boy. Yeah. Let's go to the park.
now this is 8 months later. Should have done that.
Here we go. Yep. We're going to turn it. Oh, no. All right, buddy. So, he's going to go to the other straw. Do you want to be the wolf?
Yeah.
Okay. So, that's the left one. And what does he do? No. No way. Go away. All right. What's he going to say? Then I will huff. Ready? I will puff. Good job. And I will. Yeah. Oh, you will blow. Nice. Very good. Do it. All right, look. He did it. Eyes, is it my turn to show eyes or your turn?
It'll get better. Just 1 second. Sorry, this is
Am I going to shut eyes or are you shutting eyes? You need to do 3 more turns or we okay.
attention is something I'm very much
Ready
working on.
for you? But we have 3 more turns. Look, we have 3 more turns. I will go because I'm going to get a prize. Hey, I like toys. Okay, so I'm going to pick the prize. So you need to shut eyes. Are you ready? Oh, I'm not ready. Close on and shut eyes. Okay, ready? Whoa, it's my turn. It's right here. I'm hiding. What do you have? One more time. What do you have? I have a zoo animal. Do you think it's going to be the bear or the giraffe? It is the giraffe. Good job. All right. And the giraffe. All right, buddy. Ready to have my turn? We have 2 more turns, and then we get to pick our toy. 2 more. Here we go. You shut eyes. No, Colby, tell me. Or you want to shy? Hey, you shy. Okay. Tell me when you're ready. All of that. Oh, wait a second, I gotta ask my question. What do you, oh, it's my turn. What do you have? Lots. I see lots of farm animals. Let's put farm animal in. All right. So there's Mr. Mayo. All right. Does anyone have any questions? And I'm totally over my time. All right.
Kind of a quick, would most SLPs in their graduate training get this type of?
Yeah. No, not at all.
Because our speech is a lot of like play-based stuff, they don't do a lot of the.
That is the prompt.
Yeah, so you have to actually go to prompt training, and I'm so sorry, but probably the people behind me are not happy. So prompt, you have to go to prompt training, and there's levels, and you have to finish self-study projects and practice them. So I have one more self-study thing that I have to complete, and then I'm certified as a prompt therapist. But you do have to go through lots of levels, and you have to complete lots of projects as you complete each one.
Is there like a, how could we inquire, is there like a database to look up like prompt certified?
Yes, it's the Prompt Institute, absolutely. You can look up here, I mean, you can take a picture of this if you want, and you can look through it, yeah. There's lots of research. And even in the back of these books, there is the research studies that go along with everything in the continuums, if you wanted to check them out. But yeah, there's lots of research in the books, of course. Anything else? All right, well, thank you guys. I really do appreciate you guys coming.